Hello and welcome back to Keeper of the Lost City's Lodestar. Today is chapters 15 and 16. Thank you so much for being here. If you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? Make sure to hit that subscribe button as it really helps me out. And if you want to leave me a comment today, let me know what you love most about the Keeper universe. What attracts you to the books, or what's your favorite part about the characters or the writing? Let me know. I'd love to hear. Sophie could feel the stones roll across her skin, kind of like walking through one of those ball enclosures she used to play in as a kid, and when she emerged on the other side, it felt like she'd stepped into another world. Gone were the rough walls and low ceilings. The hallway was sleek, with metal and bright, lit by thousands of tiny flames of balefire glowing across the glass walls. Fitz stepped through the stones behind her, and Lynn and Grizzle followed right away. "This is the hole you carried us through, isn't it?" Sophie whispered. Mr. Forkle nodded. Mr. Disney was kept over here. His steps echoed off the metal floors as he led them down the hall. Fitz held Sophie's hand, tightening his grip when Mr. Forkle slid a panel of the wall aside, revealing a small, dusty room. A line of thin black bars divided the space in half, but otherwise the room was empty. Mr. Forkle pointed to the cage's far corner, where a black scorch mark on the floor made Sophie shudder. They'd left him tied up over here. He was lying so painfully still when I saw him, I feared he might be. "They burned him when he moved," Sophie whispered, tears brimming her eyes. "I can't believe I had to force you to take him with us." "I wasn't going to leave him," Mr. Forkle promised. "I simply thought it'd be faster to carry you one at a time, and it would have let me hold you a gentler way. You both had raw burns. I was trying to make you as comfortable as possible." When she turned away, his voice filled her mind. "I can see the doubt in your eyes, and I suppose I deserve it after all the times I've failed to protect you, but you must know that I would sooner die than allow harm to come to any of you." "Everything okay?" Fitz asked. Sophie nodded and walked away from Dex's grim little cell. "Where did you find me?" Mr. Forkle sounded like the world's most depressing tour guide as he asked her to follow him to a room on the opposite side of the hall, with no bars, no furniture, just silver walls and a pile of splintered wood. Sweetness swam through the air, or maybe it was Sophie's mind playing tricks on her, as her thoughts fuzzed and her mind glazed over. "I've got you," Fitz said, holding her steady. Tam and Lynn took her hands, even Sandor huddled close, resting a meaty palm on her shoulder. "This is it?" Sophie asked. "I wasn't in a cell?" "They had you restrained to a chair." Mr. Forkle kicked a piece of the jagged wood, revealing thick black cords in the pile. Sophie bent to touch the rope, remembering the feel of its thick fibers against her skin. The piece of wood were heavy and solid, unrelenting. She picked up a piece that looked like the arm of the chair, gasping when she turned it over. "Scorch marks," she whispered. The wood slipped from her hand as the nightmares took over. "You're safe," it transmitted, filling her mind with soft threads of warmth. Their thumb rings snapped together as he pulled her gently away from the pile of wood. "I told you this would be a bad idea," Mr. Forkle said, kicking the broken boards into the wall. "I'm fine," Sophie promised. I need to get out of this room." Fitz helped her wobble back to the hall, and she sank to the floor, putting her head between her knees to stop the spinning. "You want me to carry you out?" Fitz offered. "No." The thought was so loud he jumped. "Sorry. I don't want to be carried out of here again, like some helpless little girl." "No one would ever call you helpless, but I get what you mean. Is there anything I can do?" "You're here." He tightened his hold on her hands. "Are we ready to go?" Mr. Forkle asked. Sophie closed her eyes, focusing on the tying of the threads of panic away with her other emotions. The knot in her chest swelled so huge it felt like it was pressing on her heart. But after a few slow breaths, she could bear it. "There's still more to the hideout, isn't there?" she asked. "Only the old entrance," Mr. Forkle said. "But it's nothing worth seeing. It's just an empty room with a collapsed tunnel." "I still think we should check it. We've come this far." Fitz helped her to her feet, and Sophie was glad to walk on her own, but she was grateful for the hand to hold on to. Okay, so I have a question, Tam said, breaking the silence. And this might be one of those stories you need to catch us up on, but how did you get past the Neverseen while you were here? I haven't seen a single hiding place. They must have let down their guard after they learned the plantings would be in the Wanderling Woods, thinking no one would come to search for 2 children who had been declared dead, Mr. Forkel told him. So when I triggered my distraction, all of them left their posts to investigate. Why didn't you stage an ambush? Fitz asked. You could have captured the Neverseen and ended this. We considered it, Mr. Forkel asked, but there was too many unknown variables, and we couldn't risk our ambush leading to further harm of Miss Foster or Mr. Disney. I honestly wasn't sure if the rescue was even possible. That's why I didn't have a fully formed plan of returning them to the lost cities, and why I had to trigger Miss Foster's abilities and leave the 2 of them to find their own way back. I tried to comfort myself with the knowledge that Miss Foster was well prepared for such adventures, but not a day goes by that I don't regret that decision. I'm very aware of how lucky we were that you had the strength and foresight to call for aid, he told Sophie, and that Mr. Vacker found you before you'd completely faded away. This whole nightmare was a huge wake-up call for our order. None of us ever imagined our enemies would dare be so bold. The saddest part was, their kidnapping seemed rather tame compared to the awful things the Neverseen had done since. But Sophie was trying not to think about that. She was trying not to think at all, trying to focus on breathing and walking, 1 foot in front of the other, until the hall ended in a round, empty room. Half the curved wall shattered, leaving a pile of jagged glass and twisted metal that looked ready to slice off the legs of anyone who dared to climb it. I take it that was the elevator, Fitz asked. Mr. Forkel nodded. They were very thorough with their efforts to leave no trace. Even the ceiling was crackling in the center like they'd ripped out the chandelier. I can't believe there's nothing useful here, Sophie whispered. The Neverseen aren't fools, Mr. Forkel told her. Maybe not, Tam said, but I don't think they understand how shadow prints work either. See this? He kicked a dusty shard out of the center of the floor and pointed to what looked like a smudge underneath. If the light hits the same crystal in the same place enough times, it casts a shadow inside the facets. Most people would never notice them. But if you darken them up... He waved his hands, grabbing every shadow in the room and pulling them to the center of the floor, the smudges turning blacker and blacker as the shape slowly formed. Whoa, Fitz breathed, as everyone stepped back to study the pattern. Is that? Sophie nodded. It's the Lodestar. Chapter 16. Everyone else sees the symbol, right? Sophie whispered. I'm not imagining it. Oh, it's definitely there, Fitz said. Though I don't remember this. He pointed to one of the rays where the circle, at the end, had thin lines running through the center. Lynn circled the symbol, moving the parts closest to the rubble. This is the angle they would have seen it from when they first entered from the elevator, right? If you look at it from here, that new mark looks like 2 runes that spell out Alabastrine. The star? Sophie asked. Fitz grinned. I keep forgetting you have the stars memorized. You do? Tim and Lynn asked, their jaws falling in unison when Sophie nodded. Wow. What must it be like to live in your head? Tam asked. It's very complicated. Sophie squinted at the rune. So does this mean the symbol is some sort of constellation? If it is, it's none I've ever heard of, Mr. Forkel told her. My memory is far inferior to yours, but as I recalled it, Alabastrine is what we call a solar star, one that's not connected to anything else. Are there a lot of those? Sophie asked. Millions. No idea why this one would be special, Mr. Forkel wondered. He wandered the symbol several times, turning his head this way and that. The problem is, even if this is a constellation they've created, we'd need to know more of the stars before we'd be able to match them up. And if we did, I'm not certain what that would tell us. Sophie didn't know either. But it had to be something. Just to be sure I'm understanding this correctly, Mr. Forkel said, turning to Tam. You are able to create this mark because the symbol was projected here? Tam pointed to the damaged ceiling. I'm betting there used to be a gadget right there that flashed the symbol across the foyer. Mr. Forkel scratched his chin. I don't understand why I didn't see it during the rescue. Mind you, I had a lot to consider at the moment, but I can't believe I would have overlooked a glowing mark projected across the floor. Maybe they didn't keep it lit at all times, Lynn suggested. But it would have had to be on a lot in order to leave this strong of a shadow impression, Tam reminded her. Sophie had a much bigger, much more terrifying question. Do you think this means that my kidnapping was part of the Lodestar initiative? She knew the Neverseen had taken her, but she thought it was because they wanted to learn why the Black Swan created her. She'd never considered it might be some part of a bigger plan. Mr. Forkel sighed. I figured you might be worrying about that, and before you panic, remember that it's possible this hideout was chosen for its convenience or availability. In fact, that could explain why the symbol wasn't illuminated while I was here. Maybe, Sophie said, but those bars on Dex's cell were permanently installed, weren't they? So even if it wasn't built for me, it was built to hold someone. And therein lies the problem of only having pieces of information, Mr. Forkel told her. It raises more questions than it answers, which means we need to focus our efforts on learning as much about this symbol as possible, and try not to worry about the possibilities in the meantime. Have you memorized the details of this shadow print? I'll need you to project it for me when we return to Havenfield. And speaking of which, I believe we're already past the time I gave your father. They were, and Grady was not happy. I was 5 minutes away from hailing the council and begging them to track your pendants, he told them as Sophie made her way over to squish him with a hug. Missed you too, kiddo. Everything all right? It wasn't, but it definitely felt better knowing she was home. Did you find anything? Grady asked. Mr. Forkel explained about the symbol. Wow, Grady whispered, hugging Sophie tighter. I guess it's a good thing you went. It appears so, Mr. Forkel said, handing Sophie the memory log. She projected the shadowy symbol on the opposite page from where she'd recorded Prentice's memory. The marks were the exact same except the runes. The design had 16 rays with 16 circles, so if each one was linked to a star, that meant they had a lot of secrets to uncover. Speaking to Geffen has taken on a new level of priority, Mr. Forkel told her, so use this time to start working on a plan for how to trick him into cooperating. We'll need something clever to get his attention, beyond showing him this symbol. It's always a game with him, and we cannot face him until we know how to win. Sophie handed him back the memory log. How long do you think it'll be before the council lets us meet with him? I'm on my way to Eternalia right now to find out. Mr. Ruin, do you have any gnomes who might be willing to bring Mr. Tam and Miss Lynn back to Illuvatere for me? Laura and Mitchie live here now, Grady suggested. Perfect. In fact, it might be wise to see if they know anything about the symbol, Mr. Forkel said. Laura and Mitchie had been the ones to discover the hideout in Paris. If it weren't for them, Sophie and Dex wouldn't be alive. So that's it? Tam asked. You're sending us home to wait? Only because the next few steps fall squarely on my shoulders, Mr. Forkel told him. I'll have more specific assignments once I secure the meeting with Geffen. Are you going to go see the council like that? Grady asked, pointing to his Forkel design. Not design, disguise. Of course, this is the only identity the counselors are allowed to know. And if I'm being honest, it also makes the whole process of haggling them much more entertaining. Counselor Emery looks so delightfully frustrated as he tries to push through my mental blocking. And Counselor Alina loves to pretend that she almost recognizes me. I'm certain she'll fall out of her chair when she realizes they nearly elected me instead of her. I've been wondering about that, Grady said. What would have happened if you would have been voted in? I truly have no idea. In all my years with the Order, it never crossed my mind that any of my identities might be considered for the Council. It stirred quite the controversy among the collective. Personally, I didn't fret too much, since I assumed I'd never win. But if I had been wrong, I would have accepted the position. The same means that allowed me to live among humans for 12 years would surely have allowed me to be both a part of the Black Swan and a counselor. And you still won't tell us how you pulled that off? Sophie asked. Perhaps someday. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must be off, and while I'm away, I trust that you four, he pointed to Fitz, Sophie, Tam, and Lynn, will be responsible members of our order and await further guidance before doing any of your own investigating. Lynn and I aren't members of the order, Tam reminded him. Yes, and that's something you might want to reconsider. I'm not trying to rush you, of course, but you do push rather hard to be included in all of our happenings. Tam tugged on his bangs. I'm sure I'll take the oath soon. I just have trust issues, Mr. Forkle finished for him. Not something I blame you for. But keep in mind that there may also be times when something needs to be restricted to those who are officially in our order. Do we have to swear fealty together? Lynn asked. Of course not. You're each welcome to make your own decision. And speaking of decisions, he turned to Sophie, are you planning on telling Mr. Sensen about our discoveries today? Her eyelashes turned itchy. Should I? I would be careful with the specifics, he said, as I remember the last time he found a note from his mother. He took the news quite hard. Hard was putting it mildly. Keith had tried to run away to Ravagog to take on King Dimitar all by himself. But part of the reason for his recklessness had been that Sophie kept the note secret. Let me know how it goes, Mr. Forkle said before he leaped away. Tam and Lynn left with Laura and Mitya a few minutes later. Need me to stay while you talk to him? Fitz asked. Sophie shook her head. I'm sure it'll be okay. It wasn't. Keith's mind exploded with angry flashbacks, and he seemed especially fixated on the word legacy. Should I not have told you? She asked. No, it's whatever. I should be used to it by now. Do you have any idea what she wanted to tell you? I wish I did. He also didn't recognize the Lodestar symbol. You're sure? Sophie pressed. Look at it really carefully. I am. The only part that's familiar is the piece that you already showed me, and I have no idea why my idiot dad would think it's connected to the Lodestar initiative. Does that scare you? Sophie asked. A little, he admitted. But I learned something super important today. Did you know that Fenton has a cache? And not the one I stole from you and gave to him. He has one from back when he was a counselor. Alvar told me. He asked me how I'm holding up after the Foxfire incident, making sure it wasn't affecting my sanity and getting all big brothery about it. Gross, Sophie interrupted. I know, but I was able to ask him how Fenton's mind didn't shatter after what he did to Kenrick. He told me Fenton knows how to wipe his own memories and locks anything dark but crucial away in his cache before he purges it from his mind so he doesn't have to live with it. Do you think that's why he hasn't recruited any other telepaths? Sophie asked. Because he doesn't need them? Maybe. I don't know. But don't you realize what that means? His cache is probably filled with everything we need to know about the Neverseen. Only if we can open it, Sophie reminded him. Plus, it can't hold any of their current plans. Otherwise, how could he work on them if he doesn't remember them? Either way, Keith said, that cache is my new target. I'm betting he keeps it with the other one, and I'm going to find a way to steal them both. That concludes Keeper of the Lost City's Neverseen chapters 15 and 16. Come back next time for 17 and 18. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you then. Bye!